Hi guys, and welcome back to another DrAce video, and today we're going to be playing Ride 4. Today we're going to be here in the Nurburgring GP on the Yamaha YZF-R R1 from 2014, and we're going to be showing you how to tackle this circuit in the best way possible, at least how I do it, with the aid of the controller cam, or the controller overlay should I say, and I'll try and talk you through some of the corners to give you some advice and some pointers on how to improve your lap time. So first and foremost, let's get it out of the way with using the right trigger's acceleration, left trigger for front brake, square for rear brake, X for tuck in, that's very important, circle for downshift and triangle for upshift. Now I am running semi-automatic gears as I always tend to do in Ride 4, so circle will be my downshift and I'll probably not use triangle at all, if maybe sometimes, but it's very, very rare. Now important to mention is the X being the tuck in button. For me that means I'm running a manual tuck, therefore the game will not tuck unless I press the X button. So this is very important because when I hold the X button, it will negate the forwards and backwards movement with the left analog stick. So for example, if I'm tucking in, whether I push the left analog stick forwards or backwards, doesn't really make a difference because the tuck in overrides the ride's lean from forwards or backwards. But with that out of the way with, it's important to mention that because you will see it towards the first part, especially on the brakes, that I do push the analog stick backwards prematurely before we get to the braking zone, which you are probably going to see as this race progresses, but we're going to try and get across the line in just a moment, and then I can start breaking things down for you perfectly, as much as I can, to give you guys the best experience and best advice possible so you can improve your lap times. So coming out of the final corner, I'm going to be giving full acceleration here, full tuck-in, and I'm going to prepare by pushing backwards on the left analog stick. Now by pushing backwards prematurely before I release the X button means that the rider is already prepared to sit up the second I remove the X button. So the second I remove my thumb off the X button, the rider's weight is going to shift to the back of the bike, go hard on the brakes and stop yourself from A, stopping, and also help with the brakes as well, because the rider's body effectively works as a parachute as all the wind hits him in the chest and he can begin to slow the motorcycle down. So into this very difficult left hand here, it's wise to go a little bit left and then bring it in to the right to then bring it back over to the left for the turn 3. It's a very, very difficult bump in the middle of the circuit there that can really throw you off, so just be very, very careful. Best position is to swing it across and do it like that. Brake nice and early before you see that tarmac there to your left hand side. Quite a lot of front brake and a lot of rear brake for me, but of course pay attention to how much brake is being applied on the trail braking. And of course the same can be said for smooth acceleration. You're not really always going full acceleration, it's balancing between halfway, up to 70% and maybe even 80%. We're now braking into the Michelin curve for turn 7. Once again, still quite gentle on the brakes. I'm just going to use a little bit of front brake to keep the gap nice and tight here to the Wallsteiner curve, and now bring it on the power up on the rumble strip, and now keep it into the right hand side, just ever so slightly reduce the acceleration there, and go firm on the brakes well before that tarmac to the right hand side of your screen. But to the left hand side for the chicane, back over to the right hand side for turn 10, and you've tackled that one pretty well. Now of course, to get that chicane right, it is imperative I tell you, to get the braking right before you get to the chicane, because you can't get the chicane right if you're going to go wide into the first part of the chicane, so be very careful with that one that time around. So braking well before the first marker here into the very, very difficult first corner, I'm using a hell of a lot of front brake and a lot of rear brake just to really slow the motorcycle down as much as possible. Downshifting into first gear as well, keeping it all trim and proper for the first corner. Get that corner right and you can tackle the second part and even into the Mercedes arena. So coming out of this corner now, I'm still going to position to the left hand side. I'm slowly going to move it to the right and then get onto the brakes. But as you see in the brakes there on the right hand side of your screen, it's not getting slammed on, it's very gentle in the control for the brakes, because if you go full brake there, the chances are you're going to start stopping or getting really out of shape of getting across that bump. So braking once again, quite firm into the right hand side for the Dunlop curve, as we keep it in nice and tight, gentle this time around without doing the tuck-in until we get onto the exit of the corner. The tuck-in button I highly recommend to only use when you're coming out of the corner and when on the straights. If you do it mid-corner, you're imbalancing the rider's weight, so the rider's weight is going to be a little bit all over the place when holding the tuck-in button. Some situations it's okay if it's a long sweeping corner, but if it's a tight corner, try and avoid using the X button altogether. So coming out of the right hand side now and keeping it in nice and tight as much as you can, and went for it this time around with full acceleration, full tuck in, but we're going to be braking nice and early at that tarmac part. Keep it in nice and tight, trail braking pretty much until you reach the apex of the corner, and I'm now going to get a great acceleration and a nice calm and gentle braking for the Coca-Cola curve. Keep it in nice and tight, run it a little bit deep, but not deep enough to go onto the rumble strip, because the rumble strip dips into sand and the sand will then slow you down. So braking well before the first braking mark, you see it there on the left hand side of your screen, nice and firm on the brakes, still braking very firm all the way up to the apex of the first corner, and then a smooth change of direction for turn 2. You can see the analog stick moving, you can see how gentle it is, it's always being pushed in a direction. It's never in a neutral state, it's always being moved to gentle, calm, control and concise. That is very, very important. So watch the analog stick for a little bit of a while, get a good feel for how gentle and how smooth you have to be, and honestly, you're going to save so much time in the future. You're going to have a much better experience, and the riding ultimately is going to look cleaner, and that's what it's looking like now. Pretty smooth, pretty consistent as of yet. So guys, as well, if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing, and don't hesitate to let me know in the comment section what you want to see next. If there's another track that you're not quite getting on with and you want me to do a breakdown guide for you, let me know in the comment section. But in the change of direction now for the Schumacher S, I'm going to bring on the power a little bit aggressively there and getting a little bit onto the rumble strip and onto the grass. I'm going to bring on the brakes for the left hand side for turn 7, and we're now going to really begin to start pushing a little bit further now. We've been doing some decent lap times and the racings look pretty good, but I want to start pushing a little bit more now, and let's see if we can improve the lap time, hopefully into the high 151s or the low 152s at best. So braking in to the left hand side for the chicane. I don't think it's going to be an improvement this time around. I kind of made a mess going into the right hander just a moment ago, but we've still got a few more laps to do, so let's see what we can produce. And unfortunately going wide for the Coca-Cola curve is not going to get the job done, as we bring on the power, get caught on the rumble strip, almost touching the sand, but thankfully we avoided it this time around. So once again, I'm going to drill it into your first corner, first braking marker that you see on the left hand side of your screen. Rear brake as much as possible and begin to downshift. Unfortunately, it does mean you have to take your thumb off the square button or the rear brake to downshift, but if you hold onto the rear brake too much, the bike does get a little bit out of shape, so just bear that in mind for the future. Now, as far as electronics go in this one, I am running anti-wheelie 1 and traction control off with engine brake at 2. And regarding setups, don't bother asking, because I don't use any setups in Ride 4 at all. Everything is on default with nothing changed in that department. Now, I do appreciate that some of you will swear by settings or some sort of setup that you use. For me, I just never found anything really changed, so bear that in mind if you want to try it. Entirely up to you whether you want to go for your setting or my default standard. It's entirely up to you. Well, now into the Schumacher S's. Difficult corner this one, but make sure you're turning in nice and tight well before you reach the apex of the left hand side. Of course, being in a bike game, you do need to be turning in rather early rather than too late. Of course, going in too late doesn't help anyone, and it just makes you lose a hell of a lot of time. But into the right hand side now for the Warsteiner curve for the fifth time of asking. We'll now bring on the power up by a tenth and a little bit. I'm going to try and keep it into the right hand side now, nice and early. Got to keep it in really tight to the apex. I'm going to keep on pushing backwards on the analog stick, reduce the finger off the X button and bring on the brakes for the left hand side. Beautifully done for both apexes there, just clipping both rumble strips and now beginning to brake nice and calm and gently for the Coca-Cola curve. So now bringing on the power, keep avoiding that sand. You see the acceleration, I'm trying to use as much track as possible without touching the sand, and this time it is another improvement. So firm on the brakes, keeping down, holding square, pressing circle a couple of times just to downshift down into first gear. But because you're in first gear coming out of the chicane with no traction control, be gentle on the acceleration. Be really smooth. You can see in the right hand side of your screen there, the acceleration is not often pushed to maximum. The only time you'll see it really at maximum is when I'm on a long straight, or I know I can really go for it out of a corner. But even there, still gentle on the acceleration. Not until the bike has begun to get settled, and then we can start pushing on the power. But into the turn 3, nice and gentle into the left hand side, and now into the right, just clipping the apex of the rumble strip there, but it's not too much to be too concerned about. Now firm on the brakes before we reach the tarmac, or a little bit into it as you could do, as we now go for the sort of wider sweeping line to bring it in nice and tight. Bring on the tuck-in button at the last point where your wheels are beginning to get parallel with the exit of the corners. We now go to the left hand side, change of direction for the Michael Schumacher S's. Don't touch the grass this time around, and brake at the 150 metre marker, which you can see on the right hand side of your screen. But now into the right hand side, keep it in, keep it in, keep it in, and then bring on the power. Be careful of running it too deep there, because if you get caught onto the green part, your lap time could be invalidated, or worse, you could even crash, so be very, very careful. Braking well before we reach the tarmac on the right hand side, well before the 150 metre marker. Keep it in nice and tight, beautiful apex to the left hand side, not so ideal on the right hand side, but we are gaining time nonetheless. Braking nice and early, went in a little bit too early there, just a tiny bit too early, but it's better to go early than late sometimes around, and we do manage to improve the lap time. But guys, that is going to be it from me. I do hope this video has helped you. If it has, let me know in the comment section down below, and let me know what you want to see next as well. But guys, upon that note, thanks for watching, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now. Oh hi, didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite set your appetite, then why not watch some more DrAce content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single DrAce video.